Okay. As always, here's me saying, I think I'm live. Anyways, it's me, Lauren, the filmmaker extraordinaire, and we're live today because I did not have the time to film a video for the week. And then I was out earlier, so I was not able to actually go live at noon. And then I took a nap and I was doing laundry, and here we are. But the video that I was going to make for the day is about gratitude. So I figured I would still talk about that. So I have my notes to the side. So if I look over, it's just 'cause I'm looking at my notes. It's not a lot of notes, so I don't know how long this would be. But if you have a question or anything you want to comment, please, of course, feel free to do so, and I will absolutely try to either work it in or answer it in whatever capacity I have. My hair looks like really crazy today. I tried to just do the usual thing where I wash it and then I like try to scrunch curl it, and usually I feel like it looks better than this. It's fine, no big deal. Anyways, gratitude. So I think gratitude was something that I mean, always like when you're a kid, we would like thank people, thank you for presents, thanks for this, thanks on Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah. But I don't really think I was like a not that I had this weird special childhood, but that being grateful wasn't like a body, can't even think, a mental like wellness thing when I was growing up. Really, I don't think. I feel like there weren't any people talking about the importance of gratitude or why gratitude can make you, I don't know, like live longer or some like crazy thing that you kind of hear about. That wasn't really the case. But now I think we're all very accustomed to gratitude being a thing. Gratitude journals are a thing, in which case I actually have one. It's a good vibes only, and it is a gratitude journal that I own. And this is one of the reasons that I was inspired to come up with this video, because I was like, interesting. Mostly because I go in phases of using the journal or not. But it basically, mine says things like every day you pick something, you pick 3 things you look forward to, and then you pick 3 things you're grateful for. And then every like 30 days or whatever, it has like some bonus thing, maybe a 30-day reflection or a life wheel or something like that. And before I got this journal, once one of my aunts actually gave me a notebook that I was supposed to list all the things I was grateful for every day, which I did maybe for like 3 days, and then I was, stopped doing that. But the point is that I was trying to be grateful, and it became a chore for me to be grateful, because then I had to do it. So for like my current gratitude journal, I do it like maybe a couple days a week, maybe sometimes once a week, just to kind of check in with myself. But I don't try to make it a daily thing, because then I feel like I'm not really being like genuinely grateful for anything. And I know the point is to like reassess what you have, think about the life you're leading, all the things that the blessings that you have in your life that you may not think about. But sometimes it's really mopey. Like if I'm really not doing well mentally, I'm like, I am grateful for the sun. And it's not in a poetic, like, I am grateful for the sun, for she shines on my skin. Like, no, I can't think of anything that feels more relevant to me to be grateful for the time being. And I have a lot of repeats. Like I often say, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful that I have a job. Like these things are more common repeats. And every now and then there's something like special. Like when I went to the first YouTube event, I was like, I'm thankful for my YouTube audience that let me go to this event. Like it was a very specific thing. But for the most part, they're more generalized. And sometimes, as I was saying, they don't even feel that relevant. So that's not really what I'm like aspiring to have mostly in my life of being grateful. But it can be really tough. So I thought, like, why is it tough? Because it can't just be me that struggles with being grateful and embracing gratitude as like a life practice. So that's what basically this was a big roundabout way of explaining why I wanted to look into this. So I found out that scientifically, gratitude is good psychologically for relationships. That makes sense, because if you're grateful for somebody, then you might treat them nicer, more respectful, and you appreciate them. You don't take them for granted, and your relationships, continue to blossom and thrive. Interestingly, it said it was even maybe good for physical health, which, like I was looking at a couple studies, and because I'm going live, I don't really feel like delving into it too much, but I do have some sources that I will link in the description when I'm done going live because I forgot to put them in beforehand. So you can check them out yourselves and kind of read them. But to me, that seems a little bogus. Maybe not. I mean, there's studies, so in a certain sample size, it was helped people's physical health be improved. But I think it's more of like the wellness culture, like someone who's really big on gratitude maybe has a higher chance of like also being big on like the meditation space because you're, meditating on your life's blessings and things like that. And if you're like meditating, maybe you also do yoga, which is good, definitely good for your physical health and all that stuff. So I feel like it's kind of like a date, not a daisy chain effect, but like it's more complicated than just like, oh, this one thing is why this is true. Like correlation is not causation type of deal. And they did say that gratitude could also, like, one reasons why gratitude could be harder for people is because that it could be rooted in your genes. And then they noted two different genes in the study, the CD38 gene and then I wrote in quotation marks, the COMT gene. And I guess people with like these genes in a certain capacity, I'm really not a scientist, had like a better chance of like being grateful in like a certain studies that they did like with psychologists, which I thought was really interesting. So there could be like something about my like DNA and genetics that are literally make it sometimes harder for me to be a grateful person. Now, I don't think I'm like not a grateful person. I think I am like pretty, but it's not easy for me to be grateful sometimes. And that could be because it's not easy for anyone to be grateful at times. Like maybe everybody struggles all the time with being grateful because, in our lives, we're our own main characters, right? Like we expect that our lives will be up and up. And then sometimes they're on the down and down. And it's like, well, what's going on here, buddy? And it's not a good time. Anyways, that was another tangent. I really shouldn't go live when I'm like low key tired because nothing happens. It's all not productive. But here we are, anyways. And then another study found that people who are more prone to gratitude have more gray matter in their right inferior temporal cortex. I thought that was really interesting. And the thing is, it's again, like, what does more prone to gratitude? What does that really entail? Like, how do you know if you're more prone to gratitude? Like, I think I'm semi prone to gratitude, but I wouldn't say that I'm always grateful. Like, I'd say probably like, definitely not the majority of the time. I'm not always thinking about how grateful I am for stuff, and it's something I thought I really needed to work on because of this kind of societal pressure to be grateful for everything, and, I mean, it's a weird thing because I'm always thankful that I have my family, but then there's, like, thankful, and then there's, like, grateful are these different obviously, the words are different, so are our connotations also very different? And if I'm thankful, who am I thanking? And if I'm grateful, am I grateful to anyone? Am I grateful, or am I just grateful for something? And this may all sound very like pedantic and like not relevant or useful to anything, but it just things to prompt thought because I don't have the answers here. I really don't. I'm just trying to stumbling along, trying to figure it out myself. So, anyways, apparently, as when we think about being thankful, being grateful, according to the articles I was looking at, personality also comes into play. The thieves of thankfulness were noted as envy, materialism, narcissism, and cynicism. Now, I would say, as far as envy goes, I don't think for me personally, I'm that like envious of a person. I might say, like, oh, jealous, like if someone's doing something cool, but I'm not really like burning up inside. I think the only times I could be kind of envious were like when I was looking for jobs and I felt like everyone I knew was getting a job. And I definitely was jealous of people who had jobs and had felt like they had their life sorted out. And then it was hard for me to be grateful for stuff that I had, I will say, because it felt like the thing that I really needed, the job I didn't have. So what was the point of having other things if I didn't have what I felt like I really needed at the time? So I would agree that in that case, envy definitely made it much harder for me to feel grateful for anything. Then there's materialism. Now, I am a sentimental stuff person. I wouldn't call myself necessarily materialistic, but I do really enjoy items that remind me of people, places, things. I associate a lot of memories with things, but I'm not necessarily trying to just like buy stuff all the time. Now, I recently bought two new books, but they're not new. I've read them both before, but they're like pretty versions of them. So yes, do I like having like a pretty aesthetically pleasing book? I do like that. So maybe in that sense you could say I'm materialistic. But the books mean a lot to me. One of them is David Copperfield, which is a book that I read growing up that just like really resonated with me. And then there was Emma by Jane Austen, a book that I read all the time when I'm stressed. So it was important to me that I have a nice copy of it that I have physically because I only have one really on my phone and now I have a physical copy. So to me, I don't really think I can speak as much to the materialistic element because I assume their point though was that if you're always thinking about all the things you don't have, it's hard to be grateful for the little items that you do. Like if you always want the next, I don't know, Coach bag or something and you're not happy with the bags you do have, then that can be tough. But I think it's also like self-expression, the ability to be able to express yourself. And I think maybe not even if we're thinking designer products, but just things that you want to have that represent you in your room or your home. I think that it's okay to want things that are physical, like tangible objects. I don't think it makes you a bad person to want stuff. I think the only reason that it could, could be a thief of thankfulness is if you're prioritizing the things that you have over upkeeping maybe or maintaining what you do. Like if you prioritize what you want to have versus maintaining what you do have, I think that could be a problem because if you're not maintaining what you have, if you don't, take care of your garden, all your veggies are going to die basically. And then you're left with less than what you started with, which is not great. Did anything show that gratitude varies with age? When I was younger, I was envious of others and maybe not always grateful, but now, well into middle age, gratitude comes easily to me. Um, I mean, there were tons of articles about gratitude that I did not read because I wasn't going to read all of these articles because I'm lazy. But I don't remember, but I think that would also make sense. But I think also it's more like emotional maturity. So that is obviously tied to age because when you're younger, like you're not able to like distinguish everything the same way. And it just feels like you want something now. Like when I was a kid, very little, like, or I don't even remember probably, but when I was like a baby, I'm sure when I wanted like food, I just cried. Like I didn't have the way to express like internally or think about it, how I really felt. So I just cried. So I feel like it's probably about like emotional maturity, but I don't know for sure. I'm not a gratitude expert, but that's very interesting. But yeah, and then narcissism. Obviously, narcissism could definitely be a problem when you're trying to be grateful because if you're kind of like obsessed with yourself and you think you're like, the best, the most beautiful, whatever, you are the icon, you think you deserve these things, then you might miss out on what you do have and what's out there for you. And I think that is, that can be really tough. I don't really, I joke that I'm kind of vain sometimes, but I don't really think of myself as that narcissistic. Someone could tell me otherwise, and I wouldn't know because I'm assuming people who are narcissists don't think of themselves that way because they're like, well, no, I just am this great. Um, but I could see that. And then cynicism, I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a cynic. So I'm like trying to come up with the reasons why I struggle with being grateful. And the only ones that like really I could really hit on would be like envy, because as I was already saying, sometimes I did struggle with that. And like comparison, like I think there's this saying like comparison is the thief of joy or something like that. Definitely comparing yourself to others because it's hard when you see, especially like on maybe on social media, it's hard to feel grateful sometimes when it feels like everyone else is living like the best life ever. And you gotta remember, like I gotta remember that like I don't post when I'm like majorly depressed. I don't typically post a big thing about how I'm majorly depressed. Instead, I post when I'm very happy. So obviously people are not sharing everything about themselves to the public. And I'm getting really thirsty. I never Sometimes I'm smart and I like bring water for my live streams and stuff, but not today. Um I mean, the good thing is that I found when I was doing this research that if you're struggling with being grateful, you can build your gratitude skill. This is ridiculous. I'll be right back in 3 seconds. Let me write a little thing. Be right back. Getting water because this is crazy. Okay. We got some water. But you can build your gratitude skill basically. And they said you can build it through journals, letters, and of course, verbal expression. Now, this was really interesting to me because they're basically just saying, like, in order to get better being grateful, you just have to be grateful. And I like hate that idea because if you're struggling with being grateful, kind of going through the motions to me it feels very disingenuous. And if we're trying to be a good, like, if I think about it like being a good person, for example, helping someone, opening doors, whatever, tiny things. If you're only opening the door for someone, so you can be like, I open the doors for people, like, are you really a good person? It's very performative. So to me, this felt like it was the same kind of vibe with being grateful. If we're just performing that we're being grateful for our lives by saying things. However, I think that it makes I can understand if you've like if you've never even like thought about it, at least going through the motions gets you thinking. But I had been hoping that the articles would lead me to something that was a little more, I don't know, something that felt more authentic, I guess. Like maybe go to therapy or something, like work it out with someone, talk about why you feel like you're not grateful. I feel like if you kind of can address what you're not grateful for, you might be able to think about what you are grateful for. But instead, it was just like, just pretend like you're grateful, and then eventually you will be one day, which to me, as I said, I don't really like. And then I guess the last point that I wrote down is that the key thing here is that the articles mentioned and what I was just literally talking about was we can't think of it as a chore. It's hard to not think things as a chore if you don't really feel that way. Like if I like made a reminder on my phone that was like every day at 9 p.m. Bing, talk about why you're grateful. Like if I'm not feeling grateful, then I'm like, oh, but I got to do this thing. Then it's totally a chore. It's not something that I'm actually growing as a better person because all I'm doing is saying things like, I am grateful for dinner, whatever. Even if wasn't really grateful for dinner because I was just trying to complete it as fast as possible versus a genuine eating dinner, feeling like, wow, I'm so grateful that I have this food, that I could prepare this meal, whatever it is. And then the last thing, the official last thing that I wrote within this sentence was, we have to work on not taking things for granted. I think that I definitely have struggled with taking things for granted in the past and definitely probably still in the present. I'm not trying to pretend that is not the case. I mean, I think I've worked pretty hard on it, not taking things for granted. I try to, like with friendships, I try to tell people that I like care about them, I appreciate them. I, really try to work on that. I try to make time for people. But like sometimes I forget to make time for somebody because I'm so preoccupied with my own life. And I just have this assumption that it's okay because they'll always be there or this will always be there. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth. It's not true. It's not the case. Like sometimes things change and people come in and out of our lives. And like I have some friends that are like I'm not friends with anymore. And those are some big regrets of mine that I like maybe didn't try as hard to show how much I appreciated them. And I know it goes both ways. It's a two-way street with this kind of thing, but it really like I wish I had shown that I was more grateful for them when they were around. But, I haven't learned that lesson, like, I still sometimes forget to do that with people. So it's a whole lifelong I feel like it's a lifelong pursuit to be grateful or being like, having that gratitude skill be stronger, and maybe when I'm, like, older, it won't feel like it'll take my whole life to get there, but right now, it definitely feels like sometimes I just get so preoccupied with my own life and my own problems that it can be very difficult to look beyond, see the whole forest for the trees. Like, if that example, I'm just seeing like some dead trees and I don't even notice the blossoming woods because all I see is like this one branch that's black and charred and looking sad because it was hit by lightning. It's very dramatic and extreme, and that's all I can focus on, which is not helpful. That was a lot. That was a lot of words that just came out of my mouth there. And I don't know, like, I don't really have an answer. I don't have a solution. Like, it's hard to be grateful. It could be hard because of our personalities. It can be hard, apparently, because of genetics. It can be hard because we take things for granted and we think of being grateful as a chore. And all these things are sort of answers, but not really. Like, they don't really answer the question, like, why is it so hard to be grateful? And that's because people don't really know yet. They don't know the whole situation. And maybe they just don't want to say, hey, guys, because you're all selfish. But like, we aren't all selfish people. And I think a lot of people who are genuinely good people can probably still struggle with being grateful sometimes. And I don't want to be tooting my own horn, but like, I consider myself to be like a relatively good person. And I don't think I'm that selfish. But like, I struggle with being grateful sometimes. So what does that mean for me? Right? Like, I don't know. It feels all over the place, just like this video, really all over the place. But I just wanted to get something out there for you guys, and I hope it was sort of interesting. I hope it made you think about a couple things differently. As soon as I get off this live, I will be putting those links in the descriptions. You can check out the articles that I'm talking about. And with that being said, I'm going to drink a lot more water and make some dinner for myself because it's almost 6 p.m. All right. Toodles, everybody. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below your thoughts. I would love to hear them. And I will see you next time. Bye.